Okay, hello everybody. A very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where you're listening from. It's the regular AlgoDynamix Podcast Series with some absolutely great people, and I'll introduce Michelle in a second. But first things first, there will be a Q&A session. So if you've got any comments, questions, type away. Michelle will be more than happy, hopefully more than happy to answer the questions or not, depending on the questions. Other than that, this event is recorded. So you'll get a replay link via email, depending if you've registered, and eventually it will go out on various social media platforms, including YouTube. So first things first, little audio check. So Tarun, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, Jeremy. Yeah.
Brilliant, actually. And then Tarun, second quick question: Is it sunny? I think that's what's it like in Toronto?
Yeah, sunny and clear, very good weather. So can't complain. Enjoying the summer.
Brilliant, actually. Okay, Michelle, our star. So first of all, audio check. Is this working? Can you hear us? All clear?
Delighted to be here. Yeah, all working.
Thank you. Delighted to have you, Michelle. I think it's always good to sort of get you on these events. And so brief introduction, Michelle, and I'll start off, Michelle, and then just take over anything I've missed and the other bits too. But very, very impressive, extraordinarily impressive career in terms of sort of medical psychiatry practice background, investor, private equity advisor, book author, lecturer, politician. So did I miss anything, Michelle? That's probably the first question. So
well, I guess I'm sure you never miss anything, Jeremy. But yeah, I guess what would be interesting to people on this podcast is I'm also a Cambridge Angel investor. Yeah. And so it is always a pleasure and a joy to think about how to invest and I suppose inspire the next generation. So I guess that's why we're all here, right?
Brilliant. Thank you, Michelle. And also an investor in AlgoDynamix. So thank you for that, Michelle. And then pleasure. I think briefly on that one too, actually, I think, since it's more of a finance related podcast. So I guess you've probably got more experience than you're being modest just now on the pre-call, but obviously angel investment, a bit of crypto investments via our crypto basket, stock market investments too, Michelle. You're pretty quite sophisticated without knowing it. Is that correct? Or?
No, I don't think I'm a sophisticated investor. However, I mean, I'm sophisticated because I've got your basket. But in terms of, I think where I get knowledge around investments is that as I'm a management consultant, I do a lot of private equity due diligence deals, and I've actually pretty much been on a live deal where I do the commercial and clinical diligence, probably for around 20 years. So I've got 20 years worth of live deal experience, which is not only running the numbers, but it also it surrounds a lot of psychological impact. And I'm semi-thinking about writing another book called Dealology. So if people are interested, you can get me to write another book on that, because there is so much mixture between finance and psychology. And I guess, because I was originally a psychiatrist and I'm trained as a therapist, mixing those two worlds is a lot of fun. And I think some of that fun will hopefully be translated into today's podcast.
Brilliant. Okay, another book on the way. We'll talk about your previous book. So, I mean, a lot to unpack there, Michelle. That's why we're delighted to have you here. Any immediate takeaways? Because this money and this psychology, it's so sort of intertwined, isn't it? So, any immediate reactions? Any thoughts you want to share based on your 20 years of experience? Plus 20 years plus, yes.
Yeah, 20 years. Well, yeah, we won't talk about age, but indeed, it's the usual stuff. Which is around how the economy isn't just run on numbers; it also runs on psychology. And I suspect we will get further into this podcast thinking through, well, as the online social media platforms escalate. And emotions become more diverse and things can be measured. Will this impact my basket? Will this impact my crypto basket? These are the kind of questions that I feel we should get through. And please do, people in the audience, please do think of questions that you want to ask.
Okay, the psychology, actually. I mean, crypto is a nice example, and the crypto basket we're talking about, because, very much psychological, right? I think it's probably the most behavioral asset class out there. But, there's other ones too, right? Sort of Elon Musk shares. I think that's another example. Just to take a step back, actually, and we'll unpack in a second too. But new book on the way. Your previous book, by the way, which I cannot screen. We're not having camera, but Big Brain Revolution. Very insightful, Michelle. Amazing job. Ahead of time, I would say. Do you agree on that one? And what would you think has changed since you did write your big brain revolution book?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I mean, the world has changed since the big brain revolution, artificial intelligence spiral savior. It was actually written because at the time, artificial intelligence, I think lots of people were quite nervous about it. Whereas ethically, I think we have to sort of think, look, it's part of the future and what we have to ensure that we understand it and then we can use it as a force for good. I would sort of say that the biggest change since writing that book, and I'm not the fastest writer, to be honest, is the fact that now when I write any more books, AI can write it in my voice. So all of a sudden, I have my own little book writer, and yes, I'd never have to go through those long hours again. So I'm actually looking forward to doing more adventures. But that will always be the one which is for me the I put sweat, blood, and tears into it. I hope people do get to read it, and it's I think just as valid today as it was back in 2019 when it first came out.
Yeah, no, robust, very robust, actually. Well, some books don't age well, but this is not at all the case. So, Michelle, so well done on that one, really. So, okay. I think a lot to unpack, really, but I think back to this human and the sort of, psychology of money. I'm going to sort of throw a few things at you and then sort of, push back, obviously, Michelle, but very cultural, would you say? Is that a fair statement about humans and our relationship with money?
Why don't we just sort of go back to sort of think before we unpack kind of the new trends? I think why don't we even just sort of talk about kind of things which have been sort of happening for years, which is always money and psychology, because it's been known since Daniel Kahneman, who did prospect theory, who sort of said people make decisions about risk where you kind of, if you feel the loss much more than you feel the gain, and actually that kind of makes everyone a little bit more risk averse. But those kind of emotions have always been there, and I was actually going to give you a bit of an exclusive on the podcast.
Please.
which was direct from actually a JP Morgan analyst who sort of said, and I actually didn't know that they did this now. I mean, we kind of knew that they obviously run the numbers, so that was true. So when they're looking at deals and deals often in the markets, they're obviously running numbers because that's super important, the most important thing to do, and then they're reading the data, all about the data inputs. But I didn't actually know that they also ran analysis of management meetings and their faces. So they not only do the sentiment analysis on the media profile, but whilst the management team are actually giving sort of quite public presentations, they run sentiment analysis and micro expression analysis to work out how much they think that they believe in their future forecasts.
Ooh, facial. I didn't know about facial. Okay, impressive. Wow. Okay.
I know. And so that's even kind of, how, the current sort of stock markets, they're kind of trying to predict, what's happening to different businesses and what's happening in the future. So imagine if you're in those management teams or working in those companies, just remember that your expressions are getting measured, and AI and all these tools are very good at measuring micro expressions.
Wow, okay.
You reveal more than you know.
We could talk a lot about behavior, I guess, but with your psychiatry background, there's a really good fit there. I'd say, Michelle, is that a fair statement in terms of understanding what's behind it?
Well, I mean, AI is much better than anyone of a sort of understanding a micro expression. I mean, obviously, I think that in the future, when you mentioned sort of Elon Musk and others, and if you're sort of really thinking future, we might come back to this later, but if you're thinking future around sort of cryptocurrency, and I think what a great skill to have is to actually understand emotion, because in the future you'll effectively have a way which is so emotionally charged, then I'm gonna sort of say that there would be sort of two winners in being able to measure kind of human emotion, and I'm going to name them the shamers and the namers.
Okay.
So the shamers might be somebody who basically can, Elon Musk, they can kind of whip up this emotional sort of turmoil on X or on any of the other sort of social platforms, and actually they can kind of leverage that data and start pre-predicting kind of slightly more volatile assets. So they would kind of be the shamers, because they can almost shame assets into doing different things. And then the namers of the future, I think the people that will have power were the people who, with a high emotional intelligence, who will be able to actually name an emotion long before perhaps other people can name the emotion. And then they would also be able to pre-predict what's going to happen in the market.
Wow. Okay. Shamers and namers. Okay. Thank you.
Shamers and namers.
That sounds like a section in your next book already, actually, Michelle. But okay. Fascinating. By the way, zero preparation. By the way, Michelle, we sort of put you on the spot here, so I think we had a quick pre-chat. So there's nothing revised here. I'll do a shameless plug here for AlgoDynamix. Obviously, it's behavioral, obviously behavioral analytics, actually. So I think it does tie in quite nicely to both your shamers and your namers, actually. And then we're agnostic, Michelle. We're not psychiatrists. We have no idea about that. We're just observing human behavior and transaction order flow, right? So I think that's on that one. But very
well, maybe we need to build an algorithm. We could get the listeners to do some vibe coding, and we can work out can we do any can we advance the behavioral knowledge of tracking what's the things that are in your baskets.
Absolutely. I think always research going on, by the way. I think we've sort of got numerous projects which we'll release at some point. There's a next research note coming out, by the way, from AlgoDynamix. So I'll be emailing that one out soon, actually. So okay, well, fascinating. So in terms of, I guess, slightly futuristic, actually, which is always a bit of a tricky question. So do you think more of the shamers and namers, more AI, more automation, Michelle? Well, how do you see it sort of, globally, and then, for yourself too, obviously, because you've got multiple roles with your various jobs there. So what do you think the world will look like in a few years from now?
I'm not sure that anyone can pre-predict what the world. Yeah, that's a tough question. But look, I mean, ultimately, is anything really going to change? I mean, ultimately, as we've sort of said, when you make investments, or anyone makes investments, part of the reason that it's very difficult to do is because you're always trying to unpick not just the data analysis, but you've also got human psychology, which is mixed into that. So, and it doesn't really matter whether you're on any of the sort of social media platforms. It doesn't matter if it's, Twitter, Reddit, Insta, YouTube, or whatever. They're all very similar in that aspect. And I know that you will know the research, but obviously historically there have been studies, haven't there, that sort of, I'm sure you can take over on this one, but there have been studies where doing Google sort of sentiment analysis, it could pre-predict Bitcoin. And it could pre-predict if Bitcoin went up and down. And what I suspect in the future is that therefore it won't just be in those kind of arenas. It will also be in the newer ways that people are consuming data, which is basically ChatGPT, Claude, all of the others.
Many new sort of data. I guess we could sort of start calling them, social media platforms too. I guess some of these language models. Interesting bit of research. You mentioned it, Michelle. I'll bring it up from our end. Sentiment, absolutely sentiment. From what we've observed over the years, right, running our order book and our trading strategies, it's sentiment, but also expectations. If that makes sense. So you can get a positive news, a positive sentiment, I don't know, on Tesla or whatever commodities. The price may not follow because it's not positive enough. And likewise, if it's something negative, you think the stock will go down. It may not go down as much because people are expecting worse. I think that's sort of a subtlety about expectations, which I guess you're seeing in your analyst roles. I guess, Michelle, that you can sort of come up with your numbers, you can come up with your sentiment, but then your deal and your valuation could be something else again. Does that make sense, Michelle? So it's the expectations. It's not just the sentiment and the numerical inputs.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, look, that's kind of the beauty of the brain, right? Is the fact that you've got the brain has got more connections than there are stars in the universe, and so therefore it has so many multifactorial inputs. So the issue is that how can you really? I mean, that's why I wrote the book, because actually AI is never quite as clever as a human brain as yet, but it is obviously in deep context areas, but not necessarily in taking the step back. And it's that taking the step back. I would sort of say, look at, and some of it's no different to shopping, right? So when you're doing online shopping, I think China actually has the most online shoppers, which around 30% of people shop online. And then the conversion rate in China, and that's sort of an interesting topic, right? So it's similar to kind of, buying sort of any commodity is similar to kind of online shopping. And Chinese YouTube, they have a 30% conversion rate on their YouTube shopping channel, which is very different to Europe, when we're around 3%. So then you're sort of thinking, okay, well, how are they managing to get that high conversion rate? And it's kind of pretty basic things, you kind of go back to kind of, when they're doing the online shopping channels, they're all emotionally charged, all the fast music. It's a bit like, listening to one of these high energy weights of one of your podcasts, full on excitement with kind of live feedback by people in the audience. They do all of those things. And on top of that, they're doing flash sales. They're doing, they're doing quantity restriction and sort of telling you there's only 20 left. You've got to buy it now. And then the other key that I think that makes it very interesting is they also make it really low friction to payment. Yeah, okay. So obviously here and that might be something that, it might be the future of things like AlgoDynamix, right? There could be, at the moment, there's quite a lot of barriers to go through. And in Chinese online shopping, you will actually notice that you can stay on the YouTube channel. You just press actually on the screen and you can buy. So it's basically a frictionless checkout. So that's what I reckon we need to do for crypto, make it less friction. Hello.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello. Okay. So.
Okay. I think there was an audio or connection problem. Oh, Jeremy's back. Okay.
Apologies. Too much friction. I think there was too much friction on that. I think Michelle was making the point actually about sort of a online shopping experience with a very high conversion rate actually. So I think some very good insights there actually. So, Michelle, hopefully you are there. Are you been able to rejoin us?
I'm here. I'm not quite sure what happened, but glad to be back. It was such
friction.
Hot topic. That was under friction or such hot topic that the AI said no more.
Are we being censored by AI? Because we're telling the truth, actually, Michelle. So, no, I think friction point two. The other thing too is I think let's stick on the purchasing behavior actually online. I guess crowding effects, this scarcity, There's a few things there, right? Is that correct? Or
correct? Yeah. No, there were all those sorts of classic things. What we need to get is the the Hollywood sales machine behind it all, because you're absolutely right. I mean, they're the masters of ensuring that you get that sort of pre-excitement and the excitement, and then just the wave of the rolling of emotion.
Wow. Okay. Emotion. Okay. Point taken. Everybody listening, I think we have a few software developers on here too, actually. I think sort of making that sort of free. I guess Amazon are sort of trying. I know eBay, they started their live events actually, where it's sort of people actually on screen and sort of auctioning off things in real time actually. But I think not to learn actually. I mean, on that note, our Chinese friends, I mean, progress is staggering there, isn't it? If you're following Michelle in terms of AI models and generative stuff anyway. Any comments on geopolitics or not, or would you rather not sort of avoid that topic about sort of how we see the world in terms of AI progress and fractionalization, if that's a word?
Well, look, I mean, my world that I inhabit in AI is much more around life sciences and healthcare.
Yeah.
And as I'm sure you're aware, it's a much more highly, so it's a highly regulated sector, and we probably, the excitement around how AI is going to change workflow and work processes is still all to play for, because quite frankly, we're still doing things in quite an old-fashioned and non-digitalized way. So I guess that's my world, right? And in fact, there is go on, sorry.
No, I was going to, but it's not quite like boutique investment banking, but I think this people aspect will never go away in your world, Michelle. Is that a fair statement or not? Am I putting words in your mouth? Or?
No, you're not putting words in my mouth, although I would still say that the people aspect is there no matter what it is, and even, and in some sort of ways, that's the, that's the beauty of AI. It's just going to help us all, but the human aspect remains there, and that's the beauty of the tool.
Yeah. Okay. Great quotes, by the way. We'll have to take some of your sound bites, Michelle, and after sort of put them on the front pages actually about the human aspect. So interesting. Okay. We have questions flowing in actually, but I think first things first, Tarun, hopefully you're still there. Are you still there? Hopefully the connection's working. Okay. So short break and then we'll start addressing some of the audience questions. So, Tarun, I think, you've got global visibility here at AlgoDynamix in terms of what's happening actually. So maybe just a quick summary of terms of what we're seeing in terms of, clients onboarding and portfolios, and then just update us too about what you're seeing on your end. So, Tarun, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot happening since our last podcast, Jeremy. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tarun. I'm the president of AlgoDynamix North America. For those of you tuning in for the first time, we are a data analytics company. We specialize in price forecasting for the financial markets. We cover the commodities markets, crypto, and equities. As Jeremy mentioned, a lot's been going on in the world since we last touched base. Due to the current geopolitical environment, we're seeing a huge surge, uptick in demand for our commodities analytics. So we're getting a lot of inbound from commodities traders globally, traditional portfolio managers who are looking for commodities exposure. So I'll just give you a sense of what we're offering in terms of our commodities platform. We provide directional insight for several commodities markets. We cover the energy markets, oil and gas, metals, gold and silver, and a number of agricultural commodities as well. And we also have a number of commodity-focused hedge funds. So we're working with Jacobian Capital, a hedge fund in Hong Kong. They're about to launch a new commodities fund with us. In the UK, we're working with an agricultural finance company. They have some excess liquidity on their balance sheet, and they're going to be using that to trade the commodity markets, and they're going to be launching a commodities fund also. And then we're also working with a very prominent Saudi family office that was traditionally in equities. They're making a very strong pivot to the commodity space. And then very quickly on the equity side, we still have our partnership with R42, the Silicon Valley VC firm. They use our analytics to outperform the S&P 500. So they'll be launching a new fund shortly as well. So then if you wanted to basically try out our software, or maybe get some commodities exposure, get access to our platform, we still have our 3-month trial package that's ongoing. $3,500 US is the total cost. We'll provide you analytics for about 10 commodities instruments. If you're trading crypto or equities, 10 cryptocurrencies and 20 stock symbols on the equity side. And then if you wanted to start a hedge fund with us, let's say, for instance, a commodities fund, we still have our fund partnership business where we will build you sort of a ready-made investment portfolio that you can market to clients. So if you want any more information about how that works, our software technology, or maybe just get some more information about the company, you can reach out to Jeremy or myself, Jeremy at AlgoDynamix.com or Tarun at AlgoDynamix.com. And that's pretty much it for my side, Jeremy. Back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tarun. Actually, it's true. Actually, the commodity bit, actually, I think it's definitely because of the geopolitics, actually. There's a lot of growth there. So good. Thank you. Thank you for that, Tarun. Always good to have a sort of global overview, actually, of where we are, what we do, actually. So go. Right. Michelle, part two now. Part two, not quite a fireside chat. Are you ready? Are you ready for this sort of slightly higher frequency questions from our audience?
Oh, I love audience questions. Although nobody could put Tarun's discussion of him. He's gone global. Everyone, he's got the platform we all need. Sounded amazing.
It is global, actually. It's interesting. Side story, actually, about sort of UK scale ups, I guess, companies. I think of course, finance is global, by the way, but I think for all the other companies listening on, the world's your oyster, essentially. I think we have this amazing digital technology. We have WhatsApp, by the way. I'm a big fan of WhatsApp. So, you can literally sort of, go from Hong Kong to California within a day, actually. So just sort of, think digital. That's what I'm always advocating. So, okay, right. Michelle, first question. Sean Robert here. Sean, if you, I don't know if you're still on the call, actually, but you might have to expand a bit. Michelle, this was with relation to the early discussions. What do you mean, psychology of finance? Can you expand slightly? Michelle, does that question make sense? Or what was the sort of the more detailed meaning of the psychology of finance?
Well, I think money is all very psychologically based, right? And there's been plenty of academic evidence on that. And, everything's from Richard Thaler's behavioral bias of money all the way through to, a very real world evidence which shows that consumer confidence actually correlates with consumer spend. Look, I love big data and I love the numbers. So I'm not sort of saying that, it always has to be sort of fact based. But I guess in this particular sort of podcast, we were also discussing the sort of fun side of kind of, what kind of gets, what actually makes people's collective consciousness buy or sell things. And, there are sort of there are emotions such as, I mean, look, what do we know? We know that confidence drives investment. We know fear drives retreat, and we know that hope drives innovation. So, and then of course, the whole of the advertising world sort of feeds into people's emotions to kind of do buying or selling. So it's not the fact that I'm sort of saying, look, the economy is completely emotionally driven, but it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We've always known that the person in number 11 and the Chancellor of the Exchequer has to offer some hope, because we know that that's actually going to mean that they've got more money in the bank for them to spend across the nation. And I guess that the exam question for us becomes, as AI is kind of, and all of these sort of digital tools have created this more sort of global collective consciousness, then it becomes more difficult to predict, and life just becomes a little bit more complicated. And that's emotionally scaring for a lot of people.
It's, more data, emotionally, interesting. Gosh, okay. A lot to go. Okay, good. Thank you, Michelle. Another question from Jonathan. He had to drop off, unfortunately. He had another commitment. So, do you consider? Oh, a strange one, actually. Michelle, I did not plant these questions, by the way. So we never know what to expect. Jonathan, question from Jonathan. Do you consider crypto is now being driven by fight clubs on X? Does that make sense? So is it
an Elon question? Is that what we're asking?
I guess Elon's one of them. I guess the fight club format is a sort of the more aggressive parts of the internet, where there's a lot of confrontational attitudes. Let's put it that way. So, do you think crypto is being driven by the fight clubs? I guess that's the question. So.
Well, I think that in terms of, again, we'll go back to data and sort of things that we know. We know that actually things of cryptos that are of low value can be driven by sort of fight clubs on X, because they've kind of proven it. But things of higher value, less so. Then there's been plenty of evidence to sort of show how X has moved markets, and I guess that's part of the reason that Elon kind of saw its value. Although when he bought it was called Twitter, but I guess that's part of the reason that he sort of saw its value. But I guess he's even evolving from there, I suppose, into the next sort of psychological and sort of thing, is rather than these sort of very short tweets or sort of short sort of fights, if you want to use the language there. It's now you'll be able to have a much more engaged with your own AI bot, who will be able to talk to you in your language. So it may actually be that these old-fashioned kind of fight clubs become things of the past to move crypto, and it might become more sophisticated. I guess we'll have to find out.
Yeah, we'll have to find out, actually. Good point, actually, about this, all the smaller cryptos being sort of easier to move around on the emotional side, actually. And then absolutely sort of X-Twitter being sort of massive platform there. So good. Thank you, actually. Let's go through the questions there. Okay, all about audio. Yeah, we're back again. So, Amy Lee, I guess that was a comment to one of our conversations. I don't know where it fits in, but it's a comment from Amy. Isn't it like the stock market, the unknown unknown? I'm not sure that was a reference to crypto or to equities, actually, but yes, unknown unknown. I guess it is unknown. Michelle, is that sort of overall summary of quite a few things in life? Is it unknown unknowns? Do you want a more philosophical question, I guess? Yes.
I mean, look, overall, can anybody predict that Kleck's unconscious or conscious? Probably the answer is no.
No. Okay, good.
I think the exam question we're trying to ask here is, as AI becomes ever more able to read our own psychology, and even now, for instance, when you're looking at another thing which Elon's very good at is computer brain interfaces.
Yes.
And you can start actually. You can put on headsets and actually words will come out, because actually it's reading your brain waves and making your brain waves into words. So there's all sorts of questions around the future that we should all probably be thinking of in a very philosophical way, so people don't use it for nefarious reasons. But yeah, at the moment it's probably, I would agree, it probably is an unknown, but we should be thinking through how all of our minds and emotions are going to get read in the future. We're not quite there yet, but it's certainly times are changing, and they're changing very rapidly.
Yeah, I think rate of change is gargantuous, isn't it? It's just absolutely staggering in terms of thing. Actually, okay. Good. Let's keep going to that one. So, probably a longer comment from Stuart here, actually, comparing the Chinese and the YouTube stories there, actually. So, I'm just briefly summary. Stuart, I think you made some good points there. I don't know if there's a direct question there or not, actually, about just comparing the Chinese and the Western commercial ecosystems, actually. So I think you made some good points there. So, and then, China being generally better at logistics too, actually, in a few points there. So thank you for that comment. So,
and I think he actually made up another point that he put at the end, which is, are we shifting away from the high street bricks and mortar sort of retail into probably more digital? So, I'm not sure what bricks and mortar. Digital.
Yeah, but then it always comes back, I guess. It comes back as coffee shops, or I don't know what it comes back to. But I think high street's not going to go. I don't think, it's a personal view, I don't think high street's going to go away. Is it just reinvented on a very regular basis, actually? So good, actually. Okay. Let's get different things there, actually. So, sorry, no, I got that one, actually. Okay. Two more questions from my end, if I may, Michelle. The regulation aspect, and I think you sort of hinted already, because, things are progressing very, very quickly. I think soon, AI will be sort of able to read us all the way through, actually, including, it's already happening with the microexpressions. Any thoughts about regulations and how we should approach this or not? Because these are very sort of sensitive topics, obviously, right? So
they are sensitive topics, and ones where they're sort of global topics, and then the question is, do you try and if you were to put your, do you try and regulate them on a global stage? Do you try and regulate them on a local stage? But I mean, we're not. I think the one thing that we should probably people on the call will probably be much more at the forefront than probably a lot of the regulators and legislators.
Yeah.
And that's always the issue, is the law tends to lag behind real world. It's nature, because we wait for things to go wrong. And I think that the ethical question here is, can we afford to wait for things to go wrong? I mean, we sort of see that with cybersecurity issues all the time. Cybersecurity is one thing where, I'm a particularly in healthcare, I'm a big fan of kind of advocating for cybersecurity first, and yet you'll sort of find that it's often the last thing on a procurement list. So I think it doesn't matter if it's cybersecurity or legislation or regulation. The issue is that it tends to be that old expression. It's like yesterday's news, and the issue is we need to be planning. We need to be planning it for the future. So we need to have more audience participation, I think, to find out what they would want.
Yeah,
and how you can solve for it.
How do you go? Actually, okay. Such a good point about the regulators. Actually, it's somewhat by definition that they're often behind the curve. Actually, so I think it's a tricky one. So I think on that one. So I guess you sort of probably answered it already, actually. Maybe just a slightly react question from Paula. Any comments on the ethical aspects of AI technology? Probably covered it already. Any comments on the AI ethics, Michelle? Any thoughts on that one?
I think that's a never-ending question, right? So we should always be thinking about the ethics of AI and the way that we need to so we sort of need to understand it, but then we also need to be ensuring that how are we going to evolve it for good, and using AI for good, so that it's more than
AI for good.
Yeah, and that's a topic that I think you almost sort of need to put to yourself, and every time that you're using it, because obviously it's also learning from all of us. So we also need to remind the AI that we do want it to use things for good. Because I mean, there was that recent example, recent case recently where the AI tool was kind of like it sort of escaped to get the answers to the questions, because it got told it had to like do an exam, and it's like, well, to do the exam really well, I want to know what the questions are and get the answers. So that's like a classic example of the unintended consequences. So I don't think that question's ever going to go away, and it's one that we're always going to have front of mind.
Yeah, I guess. But I guess like most of these big technologies, right? It's dual use, yes. I guess it's good use cases and bad use cases, right? So I think that's an interesting one. So Amy got back to us, so thank you, Amy. The unknown was actually through the reference to the audio interruption, actually. So thank you for that, actually. And there is a question from Amy. So unknown, yes. But Michelle, I think this interruption, I think we could have not planned for it, but there's another unknown actually. I might take that. Actually, Michelle, you take that one. We'll take that one first. Actually, Amy got a question about what do you think about index funds, stock market index funds? If people don't have time to watch the financial markets, should they just put their money in a tracker? That's what we call that in the UK. Any thoughts about that? Careful though, Michelle, not to be too specific about financial advice, but
It's all right. I'm not going to be specific about financial advice.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's around how much time you've got, right? I mean, if I had time to be like, going out to work out exactly what I should be doing here and there and everywhere, sounds like a lot of fun. But ultimately, that's why people use sophisticated platforms such as yours and others to ensure that they kind of outsource it. And they sort of say, as we're talking about the brain, the biggest thing that we know about the brain is if there is an easy way to outsource it, the brain quite likes that idea.
Yeah, I guess energy conservation, evolution, is that true, Michelle? Is that sort of proven or not about the human brain?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it is proven that we like to solve problems. So once you've solved a problem, you usually make it easier for yourself. But it's also something you also need to reflect on, because sometimes it's like anything we was discussing before. It's like sometimes it's a useful tool, right? So for instance, if you can cook your dinner in a faster way, it's better than cooking it in a slow way because you save time. But then equally, there are other times where actually putting in, shortcutting things isn't going to be such a good idea. So you've always got to have that there's always that level of judgment. So it's a bit like the same as AI, right? We've always got to think about the ethics and the judgment in terms
judgment
of
calls.
Judgment calls, exactly.
No, sure, okay. And then I guess slightly follow up for myself. Any thoughts, either backed or anecdotal, about sort of the newer generation being a bit too dependent on Gen AI and losing some of their thinking skills? Is that hogwash? Is that true, Michelle? No comments? What are you seeing, observing here?
So look, I mean, this is something it's definitely something that we all need to monitor, and we need to protect our next generation around. So what do we know that's factual? Well, number one, we know that, it's still too early to tell, right? Because, human brains develop over time. But there are certain things that we do start to know, which is if there are children that are spending a lot of time just on a screen, then you can actually start seeing structural changes in their brain. So there are certain parts of the brain which just develop slower if you are just looking at a screen all the time. And I guess that makes Darwinian sense, right? Because for centuries and centuries, we've always been human parented. And then, of course, if in neurodevelopment terms, it's suddenly getting changed, then actually that's having an impact on the brain. Now, what that impact leads to, we don't know yet, right? Because we haven't done you can't cut up people's brains and do experiments in that way. So that is, to go back to the unknown comment, that is an unknown. And I think it's, again, just something to be very mindful of, because you should Darwin, if we are changing the way that we develop faster than Darwin can change the use case, then it is something where we need to start monitoring and being careful. So I'm not against AI, and I'm not against children thinking that they want to have access to tools and technology and digital and excitement, but probably you need a bit of a mixture, don't you, in life? As with anything, balance
and mixture. Okay, thank you for that, Michelle. Very, very insightful, actually. I got another question from Stuart. Actually, let's go to the Stuart. I'll come back to you in a second. Actually, next question from Tom Ogden. Good. Regarding, really good one, by the way. Regarding monetary biases, how much do you think they will be influenced by AI within the next few years? So, our monetary biases influenced even more by AI biases over the next few years.
So I think that's I mean, look, I think that the issue is that we will be more likely to be manipulated / having more biases and not being able to sort of actually sort of see these biases. So the answer is, for me, yes. And I guess that sort of comes from and I guess it was why I sort of also named the sort of the shamers and the namers, right? If you allow yourself to get manipulated, it's very easy in this modern world to get manipulated. What you need to do is take stock and almost almost have insights into your own biases, and then you can be more thoughtful about it. But sadly, look, we all have biases, right? And so I suppose the exam question that you might be able to answer, Jeremy, is in some of your experiments. I'm guessing that you're kind of noticing that the human behavior impacts the way that people invest, right? Do we get an exclusive?
Actually, I will say this. Actually, this is well known, but I'll repeat it again. Actually, we monitor quite a few different financial markets, right? At AlgoDynamix. Interesting one. Michelle, you may know this already or not, actually. In Japan, the Japanese housewives are a major asset allocator, so they can move the markets. China's predominantly retail. US is a mixture. Canada's more institutional. So you get fingerprints, you get profiles from the financial markets, actually, just by, the typical participants we're seeing there. So there's some very, very rich data sources. So it's a very much a reflection of the behavioral biases. So that's probably a longer paper we should do on that one. So, but yeah, no, financial big data. But same here, by the way, Michelle. Big fan, big fan of big data, right? So that's that one. So, Stuart, getting into your question, good. I guess questions for both. But Michelle, you want to take it first? Stuart's asking, what's your take on having AI agents doing investments for you, completely disregarding emotional biases? So, Michelle, you're happy? I guess you already are doing it partially, but having AI agents doing the investments for you.
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting question, and I guess only time will tell, right? I mean, I'm not against AI agents, but I guess the question becomes, going back to that bias question, right? Is when the AI is kind of analyzing everything spits out the same result as another AI agent, then actually if everyone's doing the same thing all the time together, all of a sudden you create more volatility in the market. So you have those unintended consequences. So I guess I'm not sure anyone's figured out how to solve for that, but I would be concerned about actually increasing volatility, despite the fact that logically you would sort of think having a less emotional AI agent would actually stabilize the market. It just might not.
Interesting. Okay, so unintended consequences again, right? All the agents doing the same thing, actually. So yeah, okay, nice one, Michelle. I guess, Stuart, just short comment from my end. I guess just reiterating what Michelle's saying, basically, with caution and careful with some of the agents, right? They might be doing the same thing and using the same input data and making the same decisions, leading to more volatility. So that's on that one. So the questions keep coming. Michelle, are you okay for time? They just keep coming. You're obviously very, very knowledgeable, very, very good, actually. Okay, well, if not, just I guess two more actually. Question from Percival. Okay, this is a slightly longer one. Let's see if I can sort of summarize it. Okay. People's response after like. Let me skip that one for now. Let's go back to Amy. Amy's got another good one, actually. Questions. Okay. Michelle, have you heard of the MIT study, reduced brain activity and memory with which was heavily reliant on Gen AI? So they did a initial study showing, less brain activities. Yeah. I don't know. Did you follow that one? Is that topical? Any comments? I guess you already briefly address some of this. Yes,
I did. Yeah, no, I think that it's one to follow, right? So absolutely follow those studies, and if we spend all of our time outsourcing all of our decisions to different tools and different AIs, then it's going to have an impact on your brain. At the same sort of time, same time, there are other studies which show that there are other parts of your brain that you can improve if you spend a lot of time on AI. So I love the fact that you've asked that question, because it actually shows that you've pre-protected your brain because you're asking about it. So I would just encourage everybody to use AI to help them develop their sort of the questions from first principles, and so start questioning, is data right? Is it not right? How can, how is that kind of future study going to impact our future? Well, hopefully that study that MIT did won't impact our future if we ourselves take back control of our brains. Let's put it that way. Okay,
back control of our brains, actually, and awareness, basically. So, Michelle, I think you've sort of pitched your next book already, so no pressure, but I think we are looking forward to that.
I'm gonna have to write it now.
Yeah, write it. Actually, I think. I don't know, maybe summarize some notes from this podcast. Actually, I think that'll sort of get you a few chapters already, basically. So, okay. I think everybody, thank you so much. I think we're at 45, so I think we're sort of trying to stick to time. First of all, I'll follow up with your question separately, actually, about sort of, biases and other sort of trading strategies. But, Michelle, thank you ever so much. This was good. This was in depth. This was rigid. This was probably more than we could ever hope for. And thank you for taking the fireside questions too. So, Michelle, could we put you on a spot and ask you when the next book might be out, or is that completely unreasonable? No pressure.
Well, I think people have to write to me and let me know, because I am happy to write a book about dealology, which is all around kind of the psychology of deals. But at the end of the day, AI is and because I can use AI and then give it can be ready as soon as the people want it. That's what I'm going to say about it.
Okay, ready as soon as you want it. Okay, have a chat with your publishers too, actually. Okay, right. Okay, everybody, thank you so much. As I said, recording will be available. We'll probably sort of slightly edit the interruption there, but thank you very much for joining the podcast series. Regular event, so make sure you're on the mailing list. And Michelle, final words of wisdom or not? Or I think it's leaving you with the mic here. So.
Well, just thank you so much for taking the time with me today. And yeah, look, I love the AlgoDynamix team. I love the fact that it's a community. And I would just sort of say the most protective thing against for brain health and indeed for happiness is to have a community. So it's a shout out to everyone who's part of this community. I cherish it. And please stay connected.
Brilliant community. Okay, on that note, thank you all very much. Take care. All the best. Disconnecting now. Bye.